Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy, Mac. Joining me is my good friend, Mikey McNuggets of Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. What's going on, Mikey?
Hey, we are what? 29 hours? 29 hours from the trade deadline, and anything we think is going to happen is not going to happen, and anything we don't expect to happen is bound to happen. So it's a crazy but fun time here in the Cavs universe, trying to figure out what the heck Buyout's going to do to solidify this roster.
I don't know what the fuck to expect, frankly. I mean, Luka, that trade changed everything, and that was unique circumstances. Dallas knew what they wanted, and Anthony Davis went out and acquired him and sent Luka out of town. We've seen a couple of small moves made, whether it be the one that was just literally announced right before we press record with the Milwaukee Bucks sending Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, and a pick swap to Washington for Kyle Kuzma and Patrick Baldwin Jr. in second-round draft compensation. And the other day with the acquisition of Quentin Grimes over in Dallas. So you've seen some small stuff occur. I expect over these next day and a half, some more moves to be made. Maybe Cleveland does something to get under the tax threshold, or maybe they pull a big move. I don't know. But I got to ask you, man, we're coming off of a pretty nasty loss to Boston last night. And I just want to get your opinion on whether or not that shifted your stance on whether or not this team has to make a move with the playoffs in mind.
I don't think it should shift your stance. It's one game, granted, not the best game. And if you look at the Cavs' record against the top 5 teams they've played this season, so you have Boston, OKC, the Knicks, the Nuggets, and the Rockets. They're 5-5 against the 5 best teams they've played. They're 35-5 against everyone else. I still think they lack some athleticism overall across the board. When Dean Wade's not healthy, it completely hamstrings their ability to have positional flexibility. And I love George, but the Celtics aren't a great matchup for George, and he gets forced into that backup big. I posted this morning, Mac, and I don't know if you saw it, but since 2022, during the Donovan Mitchell era, the Cavs are 96-37. It's a 72 win percentage when Dean Wade plays, and 43-38 when he doesn't play. That's just a 53 win percentage. So the numbers bear it out that, Dean Wade might be your biggest improvement is just getting him healthy. But you can't count on Dean Wade to be healthy because he just always seems to get nicked up. It never seems to be too serious, but you can't count on Dean Wade. So it hasn't changed my opinion. Last night didn't specifically say the Cavs need someone or need a position more than they did beforehand because I already thought they still needed a little bit of reinforcements. We did the trade pod about a week and a half ago, Mac, and I was like, hey, let's make a move because it's a lot easier to make a move now than it will be in the future. But
when we had that conversation, Anthony Davis was still a Laker.
Yeah. Which goes to show that no one knows what the real compensation is for any of these guys. And we can all speculate and say that's not enough. And next thing you know, Luka Doncic is gone for Anthony Davis in a first-round pick. So none of us are GMs. But I guess long answer short, last night did not change my opinion because I was already of the opinion they needed some sort of wing reinforcement to solidify their playoff 8 if this team was going to win it all.
I love Dean Wade, and to further upon your point, in the 20 games that Boston has played against Cleveland since Dean Wade arrived back in 2019, they're 7-7 when he plays, 1-5 when he doesn't, and that they have a way of just dismantling you offensively, and Dean Wade is somebody who would have been of assistance, not only on the defensive side of the ball, but as a rebounder too. He doesn't get enough credit in that area, and that's an area where they killed the Cavs early on last night. But I guess with all of the rumors leading up to this deadline, we're hearing names like DeAndre Hunter, who was the Cavs are in quote hot pursuit of, with Karis LeVert being linked to him, and of course Cam Johnson. Those are the 2 big names that a lot of people are pushing for. If you had a preference right now, if the Cavaliers were able to realistically pull off one of those 2 moves, which one fits the Cavaliers best in your opinion?
I'm glad we're doing this now because I'm on the panel today for UCSS. We're doing this exact topic. So I'm going to get essentially my rough draft out of the way on your podcast. I'll have this solidified for UCSS. But no, I think they both can help. I would take both on the team. I prefer Cam Johnson. You go back to the playoff series against the Knicks 2 years ago. Go back to the Orlando series last year. Even the Boston series in the playoffs, but to a lesser extent. And go to last night's game as a perfect example. The Cavs defense isn't what did them dirty. When it's come push to shove time in the playoffs, they can't score. So I lean more towards the offensive assistance over the defensive assistance in this scenario. And I dove into some of the numbers. I was shocked to see how much of a better fit from a kind of analytic standpoint, Cam Johnson is to this Cavs roster than DeAndre Hunter is. So to take nothing away from Hunter, he's averaging 19 points a game this year, shooting 39% from three, a career best. But in certain aspects, he doesn't match up and compare to Cam Johnson. Mac, we all know how much the Cavs love the corner three. They're top 5 this season in corner three-point attempts, corner three-point makes, and corner three-point percentage. They love the corner three. And whoever is the fifth starter in this Cavs starting 5, along with the core 4, takes a ton of those corner threes. Okoro, Strus, Wade. Do you know where DeAndre Hunter ranks percentile-wise among all wings in the corner threes this season?
I would love to know.
He is shooting 38% from the corner. That is in the 55th percentile of all wings. Cam Johnson is shooting 48% from the corner. That is in the 95th percentile of all wings. Cam Johnson is as good of a three-point corner shooter as you'll find in basketball, and that plays right into what the Cavs like to do. And also, the other facet of their offense, which was what helps generate so many corner threes, is the driving kick, right? Get to the paint, kick out. The Cavs are top 3 in the NBA in drives per game. They're 5th in the NBA in driving kick rate. Cam Johnson has a driving kick rate this season of 48%. On the Cavs right now, that'd be the 6th highest rate ahead of Donovan and Darius. So think of how Donovan and Darius driving kick. Cam Johnson's driving and kicking at a higher percent on fewer drives, but still a higher percent than those two. 48%. DeAndre Hunter's literally half of that, 24%. That would rank dead last on the Cavaliers, lower than even Evan Mobley's driving kick rate, and that's the last thing Evan's trying to do when he gets into the paint. So I don't think Hunter necessarily fits the Cavs' offensive style nearly as well as a Cam Johnson does. But I also understand from the defensive side of the ball, he brings a little more physicality, a little more athleticism, probably better at holding up against bigs than Cam Johnson would be. But I go back to how I started this. The Cavs didn't lose to the Knicks 2 years ago because they couldn't stop New York. They couldn't score. They did not barely beat Orlando last year because they couldn't stop Orlando. It's because outside of Donovan Mitchell, nobody could score. If you're going to beat Boston, and look at last night, they held them to 112. You should be able to beat Boston if you hold them to 112. They couldn't score. They had 6 points in the first 6 minutes of the first quarter, man. You need guys to knock down shots, and I think Cam Johnson, from an offensive fit, is almost a picture-perfect small forward for what Kenny Atkinson would want.
To me, the most important aspect that he brings to the table is that catch and shoot ability as that fifth starter. 42.9% on catch and shoot triples. He's knocked down 84 of those. And the looks that he would get in this Cleveland offense, that would be fire. We think of Max Strus as a volume shooter. We think of Sam Merrill as a volume three-point shooter. And Cam Johnson is better than both of those guys in that regard. So I think he would definitely be a cleaner fit. I wouldn't be mad about acquiring DeAndre Hunter at all, but let me shift gears here for a moment to the buyout market. If the Cavaliers are unable to accomplish a trade, a big time move, I still expect something small to get under the tax line. But if they don't pull off some type of big move, the next best thing is the buyout market. Who are your top 3 targets, assuming they are bought out? Do you have anybody in mind?
Yeah, Torrey Craig is a nice name on paper, but I always feel like he's a nice name that every team wants and then gets in the playoffs, and it's we have Torrey. So I like, it's kind of like Dorian Finney-Smith. I felt the same way about him, even though his playoff numbers are way better than I ever remember him playing. So Torrey Craig, I've had a couple of different guys from the Cavs organization mention Ben Simmons to me, and I was kind of on the Ben Simmons train earlier this season. If he could play the Okoro role, Mac, and just be in that short role, he could play alongside it. I can't play with Jarrett Allen, but he can play alongside Evan Mobley, and for certain defensive possessions, give you the size, strength, athleticism, bring him into a championship culture, which Kenny Atkinson has already kind of developed here in Cleveland. And think about Simmons. No pressure from he's the guy standpoint. Pressure because it's the playoffs, but he's looking to get another contract. Either he's done playing basketball after this, or he kind of finds a way to reacclimate himself to winning basketball. And what better way to do that than joining a team like Cleveland, doing exactly what he's asked, nothing more, nothing less, and filling a vital role on a playoff run. And then Mo Bamba, his name has come up in terms of a big. I think they need a big. I like Tristan Thompson. I would not be surprised if Thompson is part of some sort of salary dump to get under the luxury tax, just because the numbers are the numbers. And if you get rid of Tristan, you need somebody over 6'9" to be able to fill in a couple of minutes here or there. So Mo Bamba at the moment, I think, is my favorite of the buyout candidates in terms of like true center. Someone DM'd me Dwight Howard last night, and I'm just gonna tell you no. No,
I don't get it. I've seen that name pop up here and there, and Dwight hasn't played professional basketball at the NBA level in what feels like an eternity now.
Was it 4 years ago, 3 years ago now?
I think, yeah, 2 or 3 years ago that we have seen him play at
Yeah.
the NBA level. But I'll say this. In terms of Ben Simmons, I think one of the things that allures me with him, he's averaged 7+ assists this year. His ability to drive and kick on a team with a lot of shooters, he could definitely get some guys some open looks out there. He can operate as sort of a pseudo big out there, as you mentioned, with the short roll action, playing the Okoro type of role out there. He's multi-positional in terms of his offensive skill set, and in some degrees in other areas not, obviously with the spacing notwithstanding. And then on the defensive side of the ball, he is certainly somebody that can defend multiple positions out there. And as far as buyout acquisitions goes, I think that it would be somebody worth bringing in. And I know nobody wants the buyout as opposed to the trade, but it is a viable option that I think a lot of people have to keep their minds open with. This Cavaliers team is not working with a ton of assets compared to some of these other teams out here, and they have a very specific goal in mind in terms of both championship contention and making sure they're staving off that tax clock from starting. So it's a difficult ask. And games like last night, while they reinforce some of the issues that we have and show some of the fatal flaws that this team has against teams that can sport some of those wings out there that tend to kill you, and not having a true third big out there, it is just one game, and I want people to relax. Got another game tonight against Detroit, if I'm not mistaken. Another opportunity to go out there and kind of right the ship. But I know that we're all kind of human coming off of last night. That's all I got to say in regards to that.
Listen, it's still Boston's conference, still Boston's league. You know, to be the champs, you got to beat the champs. And I think Boston is kind of proven they have an on-off switch. You know, when they want to flick it on, they are really damn good, and they can turn it up on both ends of the court, offensively and defensively. And last night, the Cavs played right into what I thought Boston wanted them to do, and that's why we had one of the worst offensive quarters we've seen all season. And we need Evan Mobley to be better. Point blank, period, simple. Like Evan Mobley, if he plays like that, the Cavs aren't just not a championship contender, but they get knocked out in the first or second round if Evan Mobley's going to play like that. Do I anticipate Mobley playing like that again? No. But I think it was a wake-up call to say against some of these better teams, Evan Mobley has to go in there with his hair on fire, and someone putting a foot in his ass and saying, "We need more from you, Ev. Like if we're going to be as good as we think we can be, you can't just do this against the Charlottes and the Philadelphias. You need to do this against the Bostons, the OKC, which is the first game, but those kind of opponents as well."
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better myself. Mikey McNuggets, everybody. Go check them out over on UCSS, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Go Cavs.